Jock Safari Lodge. Not only is that a glorious look at the Jock Safari Lodge, that was also pretty much a look at my suite, which I'll be staying in this week at the Legacy Experience with cricketer Kevin Pietersen, his annual conservation fundraiser, which I'm up in the Kruger National Park hosting for a few days with a collection of friends and supporters. And so that is where you find Dan Really Likes Wine, presented by Pick and Pay this particular Thursday evening. Warm welcome. Thank you for joining us on what is an evening to celebrate, not just because I'm in a beautiful part of the world for an extremely good cause with some terrific people, but also because my guest in-house, somebody who also happens to be here, is celebrating as well. Probably the biggest news in the wine world this week has been from the Decanter Awards, and as I'll mention in the news in just a moment, it is two people who have really stood out in South Africa, and one of them just happens to be here. He is not only a splendid winemaker and a great character in the South African wine community, he's also a wonderful philanthropist and has supplied not just the wine, but some terrific auction items for the event that plays out over the next few days. And via Kevin Pietersen's Save Our Rhinos Foundation is able to help a number of projects in the Kruger National Park, conserving rhinos in particular, but looking at the broader conservation space as well as a whole. So it's really special to be here. It's really special to have the guests I do. And it is not only a guest in-house with me, we will also this evening be traveling all the way to France and meeting a member of one of the definitive families of French champagne. Billecart Saumon is distributed by my in-house guest this week. And so we have not just him, but a very good friend of his joining us from France as well. So it's a really cool evening to look forward to as the sun sets over the Kruger National Park. And I can't wait to get speaking to both guys. Before we do that, though, there is some news from the world of wine. So let's catch up with all of that. Well, this comes from yesterday. Brandy and Coke. No, try brandy and fine dining. This was lunch at the Test Kitchen Carbon, Luke Dale Roberts' reincarnation of his Cape Town establishment, where instead of pairing extraordinary food with really good wine, it was paired with brandy instead. That is Christelle Jean-Reid, who is the director of the South African Brandy Foundation, and together with the chefs at Luke Dale Roberts' Johannesburg outpost, we drank, with the guidance of Tinashe Nyamudoka, one of South Africa's top sommeliers, a great selection of South African brandy, KWV 20-year-old, Van Ryn's 20-year-old, some Oudemolin, some of the Antoine Rupert. You see that there on the left there, the Lomarin Sagnac. There was also some Graham Beck, that old Sydney Back, which is just splendid. And the Bayede, you got to say it like that because there's an exclamation mark at the end. It's not Bayede, it's Bayede, and it gives you a bit of a kick as well. Those beads you can see on the right on the bottle, made by the local community as well, and all of those paired with some fascinating food, some duck tiramisu we had yesterday, and there was a lovely slice of pork belly, and there was a chocolate mascarpone extravaganza that played off the KWV. Just a really interesting selection. What it did, though, was tell you that there's far more to brandy than just gallons of Coca-Cola, and that at the top end, cognac finds a very good run for its money, just lots less money in South Africa. So maybe something to have a crack at next time you're looking for something rather special. Well done, the Brandy Foundation. Thank you for a lovely day. And well done to two particular South African winemakers. Let's kick off with a very good friend of the show, Iselle van Blerk, who's the resident mad scientist down at KWV. She sits in her own cellar, conjuring up all sorts of magic. And magic it is. Platinum Award, Best in Show for the Mentors Cabernet Franc from 2019. She is a supremely gifted winemaker. She has an enormous amount of fun, and she delivers some wine that is quite exceptional. And this Cabernet Franc is an example there. I haven't had it yet because it's the 2019. I've had the 2018, which was lovely, but this is one to look out for. But not the only one to get a Best on Show, because the other is the Chenin Blanc from Ken Forrester. Now, this is not a massive surprise. I suspect Ken, who, as you've probably worked out by now, is our very special guest on the show tonight, will claim he was a bit surprised, but really, we make the best Chenin Blanc in the world. Ken Forrester is the godfather of Chenin Blanc. String the dots together and getting the Decanter Best in Show for 97 points for the Old Vine Reserve. Well, it just shows what a magnificent wine this is, and by extension, what fabulous Chenin we make in South Africa. So take a bow, Isel and KWV. Take a bow, Ken and Ken Forrester. And what a wonderful, wonderful point of celebration for the South African wine industry. And then just quickly, the conservation champions that the WWF put together. There are 5 more who have joined the crew. A Creation in the Hermolanada, De Morganson, well done, Wendy, Warwick Wine Estate, also the Hasher family estate that's under new management, the Belgians running it, and Highbury in Somerset West. So all of those conservation champions, and well done to you all. And lovely to see, particularly with Cape Wine on the horizon, where conservation is going to be such an important part of the program, that everybody is taking it quite so seriously. Right, lovely to see all of you. And there we go, snuggling in beside me. A warm welcome to a jubilant Ken Forrester.
Yeah. Holy smokes.
Oh, there we go. Apologies for that. Ken just had to go and fix the internet. Well done, Ken. We are out in the bush. We are in the All right. I think we might be sorted. Again, our apologies. Coming to you live from Jock Safari Lodge in the heart of the Kruger National Park, where signal is occasionally a little iffy. Let's go straight back to that previous conversation. Everything you've done, Ken, all these awards you've won, the extraordinary Ken Forrester story. Where does this sit amongst all of that?
No, this is right up there. This is right up there. This is Dan. It kind of taken a while to realize just I think how big it is. They call it the Decanter World Wine Awards. You know, it's Decanter magazine. It's a massive institution in wine. Decanter is a name that any wine drinker, any wine lover knows, recognizes, has seen the book, has read, has a subscription. The World Wine Awards, it's proper. It's Decanter World Wine Award. Sure, I guess 28 years later, it's just amazing, just incredible.
What sort of impact does this have on Ken Forrester Wines, the business? Has the phone been ringing off the hook? Are the orders flooding in as a result?
Yeah, phone's ringing off the hook, but most importantly, I got the staff all together and got the team together just to say thank you, because it's a complete team effort. Every one of us there. And I've said to our team all along, we don't have hierarchies. We don't have assistants to assistants and bosses of bosses of bosses. It's a flat structure. Every one of us is just one simple link in a chain and totally reliant on the rest of the chain to function. And it's just a wonderful team of magic people who some have been with me for 20 years. Magic people, wonderful team. Just, I think, a fantastic result for us all.
In terms of the surprise, once the initial, oh my God, this is what we've won, you know how good your wine is. Is it almost a case of, well, they finally realized, maybe if it's not just Ken Forrester, they finally realized just how good South African Chenin Blanc really is?
Can you believe it, Dan? We don't believe in ourselves sufficiently. We don't back ourselves sufficiently. And can you imagine that the best wine in the world retails at sub 150 Rand? Is that possible? Think about that. You know, we're talking a $10 wine. It's just amazing. And why shouldn't we be doing wine as well as anywhere in the world? You know, we just need to get behind it, get people to understand it. People get all caught up in the kind of geography of wine. It's actually made from grapes.
It's made from grapes. It's made from grapes by great people who've, in your case, seen a lot, done a lot. How did you find out, and what was your reaction?
We got a note from the Decanter people to say, congratulations, you have won a serious award. However, the results are embargoed until yesterday, and currently your Chenin Blanc was ranked best in show. And I contacted them and I said, what does that mean? What does best in show mean? Is that the one wine on the whole show? Is that the one Chenin Blanc in the Chenin category? What is best in show? They wouldn't tell us anything at all, nothing at all. And then yesterday, when the news broke to the public and we saw it was a score of 97.
Let's just remind people that it was a score of
97.
97 points.
Yeah, I just never had a 97 in my life. I mean, 97 is extraordinary. It's extraordinary. I think it's every winemaker's dream to get over 95. That elusive 100 beckons one day, who knows? And it's like the hole-in-one in golf, you know. Who's going to get 100? I mean, ask Johan Kruger. It's about all the only Canonco we know. And to look at that as an achievement for Chenin Blanc, the humble grape Chenin Blanc, 27 years ago when I started making Chenin and started barrel fermenting Chenin, one of my colleagues said to me, one of my neighbors said, so you're kind of new here, and when you came down, did you get yourself a return ticket? Because you might need the other half. I'm happy to say I'm still here. We're still here.
I hope you've sent that person a WhatsApp with a picture of your trophy. Congratulations. And we're going to be celebrating this particular wine. In fact, I'll get you to pour a glass of it because we're going to be tasting it just a little later. But we're not only here to celebrate you and your wine, but also to celebrate a rather special weekend. We have a mutual friend in the form of Kevin Pietersen, the South African-born, cheers, former England cricketer, who's discovered a love of wine. And cheers, lovely to have you here. Philanthropy, it's a really big part of who you are, what you do. The bush, a really big part of who you are, what you do. Add in wine, and the three come together rather nicely this weekend.
It's magic. You know, there's I think in life you get what you put in. And I'm very happy to say that I'm very happy to kind of put back. We've been most fortunate. We've had a truly wonderful life, a truly magic carpet ride in all the things that I've done, all the things we've done together. And just looking at where we've come to today, and when we look at all of the problems, many shades and colors and shapes of problems that exist, and specifically one close to my heart is the African bush. Rhinos are a sore point. Every one of us knows just how awful it is, the poaching that's been taking place, and the depth of the issue, and how hard it is to resolve. And if we can help in some way to find inroads into resolving this, into changing the status quo, into reversing what is happening here, where we are losing rhinos at a rate faster than we can breed them, this is simply not good news. We need to change. We need to change the narrative. We need to have rhinos as a growing population, and literally that's the aim of the foundation, with Kevin heading it up. And I'm very happy and very thrilled to be able to support. Very happy to support.
We'll be talking a little bit more about it later on in the show. You'll also be able to see some highlights of this on the Dan Nichols Show on Supersport if you are in Africa over the coming weeks. So we're talking wildlife, we're talking conservation, we're talking wine, and we're also talking a bit about champagne, because as if you don't have enough to do already, there's a rather nice little sideline, Mr. Forrester,
Dan,
bringing some rather good champagne into South Africa.
Lovely story. A little champagne brand called Billecart Salmon. There they go, Billecart Salmon. The most exceptional champagne. And I was in London many years ago at a wine show at the Park Lane Hotel, which my mum couldn't believe I got into the Park Lane. It was actually in the basement in the function area, but that was all right.
It's still the Park
But
Lane.
I mean, look at that beauty. Isn't that just every home should have one? You know, these are important things. And right next to me, next to my stand, Ken Forrester Wine, was this Billecart Salmon. And we used to arrive on the Saturday morning with our suitcase from the airport, get behind your stand, start pouring, start chatting, get this whole thing going, and then all go out and party up a storm Saturday night, get back Sunday morning, broken embers, just ashes left of the day before. And right next to me, and I said to Billecart, I said, do me a favor, please, won't you pour me some champagne? And he poured me this unbelievable, listen to that. Listen to that. There's the pop. And he poured me an absolute a thimbleful of champagne. And I said to him, what is this? He said, no, but for the whole day. I said, no, I am South African. I need a glassful. He laughed his head off. And we got chatting. And he said to me, we're looking for a distributor in South Africa. It was fortuitous. What can I say? A lot of business is done over a glass of wine. And 25 years ago, I started importing Billecart salmon. And we've had a steady organic growth. It's known to be in the best restaurants. It's available at the best wine stores. And it's a kind of champagne that people ask for by name. They're so limited now that they virtue on allocation for all of their stock. Nice problem to have.
I'm not sure what the French word for serendipity is. I presume it's serendipité, but that's what it was as France and South Africa collided quite happily on a Sunday morning. So let's go meet the other half of this relationship, the family therein, and say a very, very warm welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine, to Paul Eduard Billecart. Bienvenue. Welcome to the show, Paul. Lovely to have you on, and thank you for joining us.
Hello, everybody. Hello, South Africa. We are far away, but we have the same time difference. That's unbelievable. So I'm happy that you go for the sunset, because for us, it's going to be soon as well. Not yet. We still have a few hours for the sunsets, but nice sun with the popping champagne in South Africa. I cannot hear yet the popping, but it's coming soon.
We're one ahead of you.
Paul, tell me a couple of things. First of all, Paul Eduard Billecart, to give you your full name. The Billecart part would suggest there is some sort of association with the brand. Tell us about the family relationship, and then what your role is within the brand.
Well, so basically, I'm part of the family. I'm part of the 7th generation of the Roland Billecart family, because we call Roland Billecart by the association on the beginning in 1818 by Nicolas François Billecart and Elisabeth Salmon. So it was 2 families, and the wedding came for a house to call Billecart Salmon. So I'm in charge of for the house for all the Middle East, Indian Oceans, and Africa. And it's always the pleasure to go to South Africa. I came in South Africa already 4 or 5 times. I'm gonna come again now that the pandemic is off, and looking really forward for a new adventure in South Africa, and especially in a nice lodge where you are in the bush.
You sound very excited about coming to South Africa. This would suggest he's a rather thirsty gentleman. For the brand with South Africa. We're having 1 or 2 issues with our internet today out in the middle of the Kruger. I think we might have you back, in which case we were just checking in there on how important the South African market is for you, Paul. What sort of role do we play other than giving you very cool and fun wine importers to hang out with when you visit?
Well, that's the fact is we have one of the worst importer and an ambassador in South Africa, which is Ken. Which Ken have been for the past 25 years, as you said, been developing the brand like tremendously. It's massive. Now it's I think it's one of the champagne on the map in South Africa. That's we have to remember that 30 years ago, Billecart was a very small brand, so we're really not known. And now with the awards we get, like Ken, we get few awards like Ken as well, at 97 points, and congratulations again. We get again, like 2 years ago, 98 points on the Parker on the Decanter, for the Elizabeth 2008. So we get all these awards in recognition, and I think that it takes long. Like for Ken, it took 20 years, which is very long, but the quality pay at one stage, which is why the quality after when the quality is there, I think the consumer and the people who enjoy wine and really good wines, just you don't need so much marketing. The wine will talk by itself.
You speak of that quality, getting 98 points for a wine. That's one more than 97.
That's one
Ken.
upmanship, isn't it?
is a fabulous achievement. Those sort of results don't come easily. What is it for you about Billecart Salmon that sets it apart, that allows you to get 98 points, that allows you to only sell on allocation, to have this huge fan base right around the world?
Well, it's after 7th generation, and Ken in one generation came to already 97 points, and I'm very jealous. It took us 200 years to get that, and it took him 20 years to get that. So it's unfair. No, it's a long process of a family vision, and different people who were there, and through I think it started really from my grandfather, Jock Billecart, who started to create a new version of winemaking in Champagne, getting the inspiration by the brewers in the north part of France. And my grandfather from the other part of the family was a brewer and was making beer, and was one of the first to elaborate the cold fermentation in Champagne. So that's how came the really identity of Billecart Salmon, coming by the cold fermentation to preserve really the fruits and and the quality on the wine, which is making twice longer the process. But this is the main identity for us at Billecart. I think it's by the know-how with the age and the time. That's simply like this. Yes.
Well, we see that those results translate into an adoring drinking public. To bring champagne, especially given our current exchange rates, current economic challenges, into South Africa, people might think, well, yeah, how on earth are you doing this? And yet clearly there is enough of a market, an enthusiastic enough market, who appreciate
and a growing market. We sell more champagne every single year. We have grown the brand without fail every year from one year to the next. There's been a consistent organic growth, and people are loyal to the brand. It's about the quality. The quality speaks out. It's the most delicious champagne. It's the finest bubble. It's not going to give you that terrible acid heart reflux. It's just delicious juice. As I say, it speaks for itself, and it's a brand that's now unanimous with fine food, with eating in good restaurants. The sommeliers all know it. Chefs use it. It's a fantastic brand. Been built up for 200 years. Seventh generation. Bizarre. 7 generations. That's magic. It's just magic. Cheers to that.
What do you say then to South African people who are watching, and they're hearing you say it's selling more and more? They go, oh, well, if it's selling more, then clearly there's less Cup Classique being sold. Why is Ken Forrester supporting French champagne and not Cup Classique? You make your own out of Chenin, needless to say. So my assumption would be that you would see them as complementary rather than competing. But what is your sense on that space?
I think there's a whole MBA subject to how champagne grew from the millennium. At the millennium, there was talk of that was champagne. There would be a little boom for champagne at the year 2000, and then things would calm down. Well, champagne hit the millennium and did not stop going. Champagne just forgot there was a break and just had the foot hard down in the right corner, and has been growing steadily ever since the millennium. It's been an absolute boom, boom, boom. Their problem, their difficulty is frosts in their vineyards, is to be able to get healthy fruit. And it's a real difficulty. It's a considerable pain to kind of something that's very hard to manage. How do you control the weather? But the quality of their juice continually improves. Billecart has made massive changes in their cellar technique, in their equipment, in their storage, in their aging. They're using more and more big wooden fûts, those wonderful 7,000 liter wooden fûts, to age the wine, to keep the reserve wine. And so there's constant, not manipulation, there's constant just fine tuning going on. And it shows in the quality.
All right. Yeah? Not sure you've completely answered the Cup Classique versus champagne question, but you've certainly given us champagne.
What's the request?
All right, let's nip over to some of the people who are watching the show, and thank you for doing that. Nontable Shaba, as for Bayede, she's added 3 exclamation marks to the initial one. Love it. We love you watching the show. Sean Matisse, who is, I think he's probably one of the best Chenin Blanc makers in the country, makes wine for somebody else, and then they pass it off as their own. He is, of course, Ken's winemaker. Drink Chenin, says Sean, as we should. He's a wonderful, wonderful winemaker. Nongleba as well, 97, well-deserved. The teamwork does the dream work. And then Sean Terry out of Cape Town, 97 is a perfect 100 for white wine. Amazing team effort, guys. Indeed it is. And thanks everybody for watching there. Paul, Ken mentioned there some of the challenges that you're facing. Pretty much every champagne house, every champagne representative I've spoken to in the last year or two, it's pretty much the same question. We do not have enough champagne. Talk to us about that problem and how, if at all, you're able to solve it.
Well, yeah, it's this year, like finger crossed, for the moment, everything is fine. We are just finishing the flower at the moment. The weather, it's pretty good. We've been having a really, really hot May. May was very, very hot. June is starting very well as well. We didn't have. It's just a little part of Champagne, like a tiny part of Champagne, after the Côte des Blancs and in the Cézanne, when we had a bit of ailing and frost, but nothing major. But last year was terrible. We had frost, we had ailing, we had water during full July. Water which caused mushrooms called the mildew. Attacked all the grapes and the leaves of the vineyard. So the harvest was catastrophic for us. So that's why the tank for many of the growers were empty. But this year looks good. Before that, the year before last year, we had the pandemic, so we restricted the harvest because we say, we're not going to sell champagne, so we need to be careful to don't collect too much grapes because we're going to have too much juice in the cellar, which was a bad bet. But what to do? As says Ken, we cannot control the weather yet. Maybe one day, but I think it will be. I will be dead for that. But we need to. We are farmer. We live with what the soil gives us and the weather gives us. So for the moment, it's looking very, very good for this year harvest, which is going to be probably end of August harvest, which is going to be early.
So some good news to look forward to, especially with this harvest. How does that then feed into demand in this part of the world? Ken talking about more and more champagne finding its way into the South African market. Have you found over the years that Billecart, Samo, and South Africa have become increasingly close friends?
Well, yes. South Africa is growing enormously for us at Billecart. The other countries of the world as well is growing a lot. And by the quality, by all these awards, we get more and more famous, more awareness of our image and our quality. So there is more and more demand for sure. The fact is that we are very conscious and very strict on our quality, always getting. We never have enough of our quality. We want always more and more and more to improve. We always consider ourselves not the best. And we always want to improve. That's our philosophy. The fact now is that the demand is so high that we don't have enough to supply. So we have to be very conscious of where we deliver the wine and who drinks the wine. We don't want to jeopardize ourselves, but my uncle Francois in '95 removed all the bottles from the supermarkets, big supermarkets. This was a big bet. He bought all the stock back from the supermarkets, and to concentrate on the fine dining, high-end hotels, and private customer. So that's how we restricted more or less the demand as well, is by concentrating on the quality of our guests as well. Yeah.
It was a big call. It's one that has clearly paid off. It reminds me of the call that a winemaker in South Africa made close to 3 decades ago, deciding to make Chenin blanc somewhere everybody told him he couldn't possibly. We'll come back to that Chenin in a moment. Before we do that, Paul, I do want to ask you a related question. If there is not much champagne in the market, everybody could start drinking South African Cup Classique. Have you had much South African Cup Classique? Have you had Ken's Sparkle Horse out of Chenin? And where do you think it sits?
Well, I think yes. The Cap Classique is. I've been tasting a few Cap Classique when I was in South Africa and visiting a lot of farms as well in Cape Town mainly, and in Stellenbosch and in Constantia as well. I think the Cap Classique, and for me, and that's my own point of view, but everybody have a different taste. It's his own. But I believe that the Cap Classique based really on Chenin have a big potential. For me, it's few winemakers I've seen in South Africa who are trying to reproduce, who try to compare with Champagne. I think this is not what a Cap Classic should do. Winemakers, they should do a Cap Classic as a Cap Classic and progress as a Chenin Blanc, like where you are good at. It's the same when people in Australia try to reproduce some Rhone Valley. I think we have all different soil, all different terroir, all different climates, and we need to do what we can do with that and the best we can do with what we have. Not trying to reproduce and to compare to Champagne. I think Cap Classic have his own identity, like a Franciacorta in Italy have his own identity. And I think that's Cap Classic have a big potential for me as a sparkling category, yes.
I get the sense, correct me if I'm wrong here, Ken, but this was something, and the name and the label and the color of it, and we've got a bottle here sitting next to the Billecart Salmon. It almost sounds like one of these Ken Forrester projects where you decided to snub your nose at everybody, have a bit of fun, and again do something everybody else told you couldn't. And then it turned out that not only could you, but you actually did it rather well. Has this surprised you in terms of what you've been able to produce as a sparkling wine from a grape that traditionally does not have a place in this genre?
Yes, in a word, Dan, yes. You should always say my answers are too long.
A one-word answer from Ken Forrester. It's never been heard of before. So, would you agree that the of Chenin-based sparkling wine?
I think that's a really good call, and I think it makes sense in so many ways when you consider that Champagne is a region, and within that region they grow Pinot Noir and Chardonnay and Pinot Meunier. Essentially, those are the three major grape varieties because they work in that region. So by focusing on that in that region, they produce something quite unique. To think that you might be able to grow Pinot Noir and Chardonnay and Pinot Meunier somewhere else that could possibly match that is a far call. It's an interesting challenge. Yes, Chenin is eminently suited to sparkling wine. In the Loire Valley, nearly 70% of all of the Chenin Blanc in the Loire Valley becomes sparkling wine. That's an amazing thought. 70% of we get about 9,000 hectares of Chenin Blanc becomes sparkling wine. That's huge. That's a massive volume. And Chenin lends itself to sparkling wine because of its natural acidity. We started making a sparkling Chenin Blanc because the vineyard itself wasn't performing because of a water problem, a drainage issue. And we took a leaf out of Champagne's book. If you can't get it ripe, make sparkling wine. And we couldn't get it ripe on time, so we started making sparkling wine with that vineyard. We made 3,000 bottles in year one, and it's 3 years from harvest to release because of the process and the degorgement and everything. And by the time we came to release the 3,000 bottles, I was hopeful they would sell. We'd made another 3,000 bottles in the following year, and maybe 4,000 the following year. And we sold 3,000 bottles in 3 months. And the market was, we'll have some more, please. And I was going, it'll take a while. And we literally today produce nearly 50,000 bottles of sparkle, also sparkling. And it's a delicious, easy, fun sparkling wine, crisp, refreshing, kind of summertime drink. Not too serious, perhaps, but delicious. And yeah, and there's a place for Cap Classic. There's a place for Champagne. There's a place for 100-pointer Rhone blends, and there's a place for everyday drinking. And I think that when we look at the kind of realm of wine drinking, Cap Classic has a very strong show, a very strong hand, and really lots more to be done. Lots more to be done.
I think there's an entire show to be done on this, and possibly later this year when Paul is with us in South Africa. I want to ask him another question about that South African-French comparison, but it stems from something you've kind of just spoken about. The Chenin Blanc in the Loire, it's the original home of Chenin Blanc, but it's no longer the real home of Chenin Blanc, with apologies to any French winemakers who might be watching from the Loire Valley, because what we've done in South Africa in terms of taking this grape, realizing it far too late, and with a lot of help from you, that actually it doesn't just have to be made in brand or wine that's going to give you a 6-day hangover. It's actually got the potential to be something polished and miraculous. And we now, I think, and just this award you've got reinforces it very, very clearly, we have the right to say Chenin Blanc, beyond any doubt, is South African wine country.
100%. Total. We have in the ground twice as much Chenin Blanc as the Loire Valley. So we have twice as much planted in a myriad of different.
Right, and I'd love to tell you that was an elephant trampling over the Wi-Fi, but that was a generator kicking in. Life in the bush, if you're still with us, apologies for the break. We won't be with you too much longer. I see Gerard Holden who's watching. Well done, Ken. Enjoying a glass of Chenin right now as the sun goes down. The
Cheers,
man
Big G.
behind Holden Mance. Thanks, Gerard. Another great friend of Dan, really likes wine. Let me jump back to Paul Eduard before we wrap up on champagne. Your thoughts, Chenin from the Loire Valley versus Chenin from South Africa, Paul? Let's see. Do we have? I think Paul is coming back.
Voilà.
There we go.
Voila.
I think we're having
Technology is brilliant.
Paul, glad to have you back. We're almost done, but just want to wrap up on the issue of Chenin. Your thoughts, Chenin from the Loire versus Chenin from South Africa?
Careful. Difficult to answer. I think it's two different identity. Again, two different terroir, two different soil, two different climates. I enjoy really both, to be honest, in part of quality. I think in a medium category, I will enjoy more South African wine than Loire Valley, because of a few parameters of winemaking. But in part of I think South Africa have the potential really to put down a lot of Loire Valley winemakers, for sure. And Ken is the pioneer of that, and make few winemakers struggling in the Loire Valley, for sure.
A very diplomatically structured answer, Mr. Billecart, and lovely to have. Just before we wrap up with Paul and then with yourself, because we've got a long evening and a big weekend in the bush to look ahead to. For the case of the Billecart Salmon, for people who haven't had it before, when you have a glass of it, you talk about the fine bubbles, you talk about it being exceptional. Just actually drinking it on the palate, what strikes you? What makes you as a winemaker go, sure, this is proper?
First of all, obviously, there's the nose. Well, we judge by our eyes. The first thing, I mean, you see that person across the street and you think, hello, that's interesting. I mean, it's always the first impression. So you look at that fine mousse, the fine bubble in the glass, and you look at the color is always just perfect. And then the nose has always, you've got this wonderfully taut expression on the nose, fruit coming forward, led by fruit. They're one of the champagne houses who believe in Pinot Meunier in their Brut Reserve. So you Pinot Meunier gives you fruit. It's really upfront, and that Pinot Meunier makes that difference, gives you that availability. And then when you taste it, there's almost, believe it or not, a kind of black currant, red currant, a berry fruit that you pick up immediately, and that berry fruit explodes with a fine bubble, and you know this is just something quite special, and it really is delicious champagne. And people make the mistake, quite easily done. The name Billecart Saumon lends itself. They make the best rosé in the world. I said so. They won't tell you that. They make the best rosé in the world. Their rosé, and people think Billecart Saumon means rosé, salmon pink rosé, this kind of thing. Their rosé is just people. And there's one particular connotation of their rosé, their vintage rosé, named Madame Salmon, Elizabeth Salmon, back in 1818 when she married Billecart. And that vintage rosé is the sort of stuff that leads you to bankruptcy. It is so delicious and so expensive, you might just be able to afford it again and again and again.
I think, Paul, you've got somebody who rather likes your wine, which is always quite important in an importer. In closing from you, Paul, if there was, oh, there we go, he's got it in hand.
Oh, voila.
Elizabeth Saumon, the Brut Rosé, and the vintage thereof. Just before we do let you go, I'd love to come and visit. So Ken and I are planning a trip over. When we do, it would include what I believe, Paul Eduard, are some of the most extraordinary cellars in all of France. Tell me a little bit about them.
Well, yes, we are fortunate we wanted to, for the 200 years celebration, we wanted to make a big improvement in part of the past and in the future. So we decided to make a foudre room, which is a huge wooden tank in part of our cellar. There we go. Now you can see it. In the middle, you see the tank of the Clos Saint-Hilaire. So that's not the food, but the big one, the foudre, are coming from different woods from Burgundy and from Austria. So we're working with some few coppers like there. And you can see as well, they are all thermo-regulated. So we can control the temperature of each individual food. So it's over 8,000 liters of food. So the room have been made by, there is, by the time we opened in June 2000, this room, it was only 2 wineries like this in France. It was Chateau Margaux and us. So this room is 100% sterilized. You can make a surgery room inside. It's more, maybe probably more sterilized than a surgery room inside. So it's very particular. So we make our wine now. It's in this. We are still in the process of washing the food. So we want the woods to get older and older to don't get too much wood impact on the wine. So some of them are ready, like 20%, and the rest is still under processing of aging. The wood is aging because it's too much power on it. So with the wine which age on this food, we sell it for other house, but because there's too much wood inside. So it's gonna take at least 6 or 7 more years before we can utilize 100% of this room.
It is an extraordinary aspect. There are some of those tunnels. You've been down those, haven't you?
Yeah, it's quite amazing. As Paul said, I mean, I think we might be able to dig a tunnel from here to find one of their tunnels, because they have so many tunnels under the ground, and it's just phenomenal. And when they put off the lights, it really is quite spooky, because you maybe would never find your way out of it. It's possible.
That would be a dream, getting lost in the Billecart salmon tunnels. Paul Eduard, I believe there's a chance we might see you in South Africa at the end of the year.
Yes, probably even before. I didn't spoke to Ken about it. If I'm authorized, if he allow me to have a visa, because I've got a brand new passport now. So if I've got my visa from Ken to come, no, I need to talk to him, and probably I will come before October. I'll try to see, but yes, I need to get back on the plane because I'm dying for it, and I'm dying to come to South Africa. Soon I will build this channel to come to South Africa very quickly. But yes, as I said, Kenya, we have a bit more than 4 kilometers of cellar on the ground. And my grandfather, when I was young, was always making this joke of shutting off the lights and say, guys, now you need to find your way out. And we are totally lost. It's impossible. But at least if you get lost in the cellar, you will never get thirsty.
Never.
A game of hide and seek, I think I would happily lose. Paul Eduard, thank you so much for joining us, for sharing some of your family history, family story, and some wonderful, wonderful champagne, which Ken and I will finish off purely for research purposes. We hope to have you back on the show when you're in South Africa later on this year.
Yes, thank you very much, Dan. Thank you very much, Ken. It's always a pleasure to have you guys. And I'm really, really looking forward to see you in real in South Africa.
Regards to the family.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Dan. All the best to you guys.
Merci bien, Paul Eduard, joining us and providing us with a great toast for our sunsets over the next few days when we go on safari. It's a perfect pairing, and also to celebrate with, because it's been a really special week for you. Congratulations. I know you stressed that it's the entire team. You do have a fantastic team, even your son-in-law, Lo, but you do headline that team, and there's a reason your name's on the bottle. So with the many achievements, this one's right up there, but extremely well deserved. So on behalf of South African Wine, to you and to Azelle, who also got her best in show, which is very important to celebrate.
And to all of the medals that came in from South Africa. There were a whole smattering of South African medals that didn't get 97. There were 96s, 95s, 94s. They're there. I mean, you guys, we're all there. Just believe in yourself. Don't stand back. Don't stand back.
We live in a time in South Africa where there is a lot to drive us absolutely mad, drive us to despair, make us wonder why possibly we'd want to wake up in the morning. But when we see stories like South African wine doing so well internationally, when we wake up somewhere like the Kruger National Park, and when we see people like Kevin Pietersen and his team raising money for great causes to support that future, suddenly the world looks a little brighter and the horizon looks a little clearer. Thank you for joining us on Dan Really Likes Wine. To all of our guests, I see Nontebo Shabo with one last comment. Happy sounds of popping. There'll be a few more of those at Jock Safari Lodge over the weekend as we run through Kevin Pietersen's legacy experience, not just raising money for conservation, but also celebrating a great country and a great part of the world. Cheers to you all. Thanks for joining us. And we'll see you back on Monday when we are off to Delheim. They've had some big developments, and they've got a rather special wine with somebody very cool from Germany. All that to come on Monday. Until then, have a great weekend. Ken, thanks again. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Good night. Cheers. Thank you.
To join the Pick and Pay Wine Club, simply SMS your smart shopper number to 36775. It's absolutely free, and you'll get for yourself 3 times the smart shopper points on every bottle of wine bought. You'll also get a 20% discount on 10 different wines each month, a 25% discount on a case of wine, and a Magnum, some terrific competitions and invitations to awesome events.